brilliantmaths.com, where every student has an opportunity to excel in mathematics. Today we have a very interesting lesson on trigonometry. We are continuing to learn how to use the sine and the cosine rule. Get a copy of Brilliant Maths Module 6 and let's go to class. Today we are looking at trigonometry using the sine rule. We are actually continuing our lesson on trigonometry using the sine rule, because during the last lesson we learned how to use the sine rule to find the length of an unknown side. But today we want to use the sine rule to find the value of an unknown angle. The sine rule states that A over sine A is equal to B over sine B, and that's equal to C over sine C. But how do you determine what is uppercase A, B, C or lowercase a, b, c? So let's look at the example. The example says, calculate the size of the marked angle. So we have triangle ABC, and the angle at A is 65 degrees, and the angle at B is unknown, and that's what we are supposed to find. So using the sine rule, if the uppercase A is here, then the line opposite that angle is a lowercase. So this is actually our A, our lowercase a. So that's angle C, uppercase C, so that's lowercase c. So the 9 centimeter line is the lowercase b. So we can then apply our rule. Learn to write the formula every time before you use it. It helps you to memorize it quickly. So A over sine A is equal to B over the sine of angle B. So from here, our lowercase a is 14 centimeters over sine A is the sine of 65 degrees. And that's equal to the lowercase b is 9 centimeters over the sine of x. So we're finding sine x. So you cross multiply. So we have sine x times 14 is equal to 9 times sine 60. So that sine x is equal to 9 sine 65 degrees over 14. So angle x will be the sine inverse of 9 sine 65 degrees over 14. So grab your calculator and let's input those figures. So we find the sine inverse. Sine inverse is the second function of 9 sine 65 degrees. Put it in your calculator so you will be able to work it out yourself over 14. And the answer is 35.64 degrees. So x is 35.64. So to one decimal place, we have 35.6 degrees. So that's the value of angle x. In this part of the lesson, we want to learn how to use the cosine rule to find an angle or an unknown side in any given triangle. So for example, in the triangle ABC, we have triangle ABC. We know how to label the sides. The side opposite an angle takes the lowercase letter of that angle. So that's our capital C or uppercase C and lowercase c. Uppercase B is an angle and lowercase b is a side. And also uppercase A is an angle and lowercase a is a side. So to find the length of a side, so finding A or B or C, the rule states that A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. Let's look at that on the triangle. That is B, that's our angle B, and this is the side B. So if we're finding 2BC cos A, that means that the given angle must be between the two sides. It is only in that instance that you can use the cosine rule when you have two sides and an included angle, the angle between the two sides. So if we're finding B, the side B, that's this length, we must be given the side A and the side C. So B squared is equal to C squared plus A squared minus 2AC cos B. So to be able to use the cosine rule, you have the side A and the side C and the angle B in between both of them. And then C also follows. To find an angle, you simply transpose the equation we have here. So to find an angle when all three sides are given. So that means you can only find an angle when all three sides have been given. So for cos A, if we're finding cos A, we want to transpose this equation. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. So we move A squared to the right-hand side of the equation and move 2BC cos A to the left, so that we can then divide the B squared plus C squared minus A squared by the 2BC to find cos A. So simply making the cosine of that angle the subject of the formula, you can then use it to find the unknown angle. So if you're finding cos A, take note, the angle must be the negative one. The angle you are finding, the side must be negated on the other side of the equation. So cos A, you have minus A squared. If you are finding cos B, then it must be minus B squared. And if you are finding cos C, you must have minus C squared. Take note of that. So that your B squared plus C squared will also correspond with BC, the denominator. So cos B is equal to A squared plus C squared minus B squared over 2AC. So let's work out an example. In this part of the lesson, we want to learn how to use the cosine rule to find an unknown angle or an unknown side. So for example 1, it says calculate the length of BC. BC is the base of this triangle, kind of. So to use the cosine rule, we know that the line BC is our lowercase letter a. So A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. The angle A is between the two given sides, so we can use the rule. Our B is 11, so we have A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. So we can use 5.2 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 5.2 times 11 times cos 42 degrees. You input that into your calculator and you have that x squared is equal to 63.02. Then to find the value of x, you find the square root. You find the square root of 63.024. 63.024. And that gives us 7.94. So the length of BC, x, which is equal to BC, is equal to 7.9 centimeters. Since this one is to 1 decimal place, we can just leave it to 1 decimal place. Then in example 2, we are supposed to calculate the size of angle x. So in this example, we are finding the value or the measure of an angle using the cosine rule. Small letter b or lowercase b will be 20 because that's opposite the angle b. So b squared is equal to c squared plus a squared minus 2ac cos b. Anytime you want to use the formula, please write it down. It will help you to learn it very quickly. So we'll put in the dimensions. B squared will be 20 squared is equal to c squared, which is 12.5 squared, plus 14 squared minus 2 times 12.5 times 14 cos x. Because it's x we need to find. We need to find the value of x. So square your 20 and you get 400. If you square 12.5 squared, you get 156.25. 14 squared is equal to 196 minus 2 times 12.5 times 14 will give you 350. So that gives us 350 cos x. But remember, we are finding the value of x. So when you simplify 156.25 plus 196, you'll get 352.25. The goal is to find x, so we have to make minus 350 cos x the subject. So in making it the subject, we transfer it to the left-hand side of the equation. And then we send 400 to the other side. So we just transfer both. So we have 350 cos x is equal to 352.25 minus 400. That leaves us with minus 47.75. So seeing that this is negative, then we know that the angle is not in the first quadrant. We had talked about that in one of our videos. If you haven't watched that video, please go look for it. So we know that cosine is negative. So that angle is not in the first quadrant. It will either be in the second quadrant or in the third quadrant, where cos is negative. So cos x is equal to minus 47.75 divided by 350. So to find x, we'll find the cos inverse of this ratio, minus 47.75 divided by 350. And the cos inverse of that will give us 97.84 degrees. So the value of x is 97.84 degrees. And like I said, it is not in the first quadrant. So it's in the second quadrant because it's greater than 90 degrees, but it's less than 180 degrees. See how easy it is. Take your time and work it out. It will help you to understand it better. And for more, get a copy of Brilliant Maths Module 6. In this part of the lesson, we want to learn how to choose which rule to use. I mean, when do you use the sine rule and when do you use the cosine rule? We have 4 different triangles here, or 4 different scenarios. In the first triangle, we have 2 sides and an included angle, the angle in between them. We can use the cosine rule to find the opposite side to that angle. Then you can then use sine rule or cosine rule to find any other parameter you are supposed to find. In the second one, where you have 3 sides, side, 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 you'd use the cosine rule to find an angle. You can't use the sine rule for a start here because the sine rule is ratio of angle to side or side to angle. So here it is mandatory to use the cosine rule to find any of the angles before you can then find anything else you are supposed to find. In the third one, you have a side and two angles. You can use the properties of a triangle to find a third angle. The sum of the three angles would give you 180 degrees. So if you add the two that are given here and subtract from 180, you have the third angle. And once you have the third angle, you can use the sine rule to find any of the other two sides. So you need to check the diagram you have, know the parameters that are given to be able to choose which rule to use. And here we have this side and that angle. So obviously we can use the sine rule for a start because we have angle here, we have the side opposite, we have a complete ratio, and we are given one side here, so we can use that to find the other angle and subsequently any other angle or side that we are required to find. Look at this example. I want you to look at this critically. Look at it. We have a triangle ABC, and we have been told to find angle Y. Which rule do we use? Take a good look at it. If you decide to use the sine rule for a start, is it possible? 6 centimeters corresponds with angle C, but we don't have angle C. We don't have any complete ratio, so you can't start with the sine rule. You have to use the cosine rule to find the length of BC first. So we use the cosine rule to find that length. 7 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 6 times 7 cos 58 degrees to find that length. And once we have found that length, then we can use the sine rule. A over sine A is equal to B over sine B, because at that point we have a complete ratio. Assuming we have found x. All right? So we can then use the value we have here over sine 58, and then the value we have here, which is 7 over sine y. So using the sine rule. So in this example, we would have to use the cosine rule and the sine rule together before we can actually solve our problem of finding the value of angle y. This is very interesting. It will take you to practice. So do practice. Get a copy of Module 6 and you'll get lots of examples and more exercises for you. In this part of the lesson, we want to look at how we can use a sine rule to find the area of a triangle. Still working on trigonometry, as you can see. So we have a triangle ABC, and we know that the area of a triangle is half base times perpendicular height. The base and the height have to be perpendicular. They have to meet at right angles. So for this base AC, the perpendicular height is BD. So we name that H. And the line opposite an angle takes the lowercase letter of it, as we have learnt. So that's our angle A, so that's side A. Angle B, side B, and then angle C, side C. But our height is H. So the area of this triangle is half base times height. We know that already. But we want to prove that that is the same as half AB sine C, which is a formula using the sine rule. So in triangle BCD, so we're considering this part of the triangle, triangle BCD. We know that sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse, which is h over a. So to find the height, we can simply cross multiply. So h is equal to a sine theta. So if we know that h is equal to a sine theta, we can then substitute the value of h into our original formula. So we have the area of the triangle is equal to half AB sine C, because C is the same as theta. So you can use this formula to find the area of a triangle when you are given two sides and an included angle without the height. So for example, if we have a triangle of this form, we are given this as 6, we are given this angle, and then we are given this as, let's say, 5. This angle is 39 degrees. You can find the area of this triangle using this formula. Half 6 times 5 times sine 39 degrees. It's actually very easy. You just need to practice it. In the example we have here, it says find the area of triangle ABC. Triangle ABC is a triangle and we've been given the three sides without an angle and we don't have the height. So we cannot use half base times height. But there's something we can do. We know that if we use the cosine rule, where we have three sides, we can find an angle. So I'd like to find angle C so that I can use 19 centimeters and 13 centimeters and the angle I get at C. And we know the formula to find an angle using the cosine rule when we have the three sides. So cos C is equal to b squared plus a squared minus c squared. Where is our b and a? Our b is 13 centimeters and our a is 19 centimeters. So it's 13 squared plus 19 squared minus 18 squared, because that's our c, all over 2 times AB, 13 times 19. So cos C is equal to this ratio. So you input that into your calculator and you will get 0.9433. Take time to try it out. 13 squared plus 19 squared minus 18 squared over the product of 2, 13, and 19. You see, it's equal to 0.9433. Then you find the cos inverse of 0.9433. Try that out. Cos inverse is the second function of 0.9433. And what do we have? It's equal to 19.4 degrees. So the angle, the included angle here is 19.4 degrees. So we can then find the area. The area of the triangle is half AB sine C. So our area here is going to be equal to half times, what's our A? A is 19. The side opposite angle A. Half times 19 centimeters times B. Our B is 13 centimeters. Sine 19.4. So we do that, and what do we get? So let's enter that into the calculator. So we have half times 19 times 13 centimeters times the sine of 19.4. And what do we get? It's 41.02 centimeter squared. So the area of our triangle is 41.02. I mean, that's approximately 41 centimeter squared. So although we're not given the height of the triangle, we're given the three sides, but we've been able to use cosine rule and sine rule and find the area of the triangle. Take your time to practice. You'll see yourself improve in math. I hope you enjoyed that lesson on trigonometry. I loved it. All you need to do is practice. Just practice, 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 and keep practicing. Subscribe to brilliantmaths.com. You have lots and lots of resources. Follow us on all our social media handles, and you will be on your way to becoming an excellent student in mathematics. My name is Ngozi Orevogene, and always remember,